Welcome to EPG Pathshala. My name is V. Bhaskar. I have been working with tax. This is the second session of Roadmap for GST implementation. In this session, we will cover three major topics. The first topic will be framework for implementation of the GST. We will discuss the GST laws which have been brought into place, the GST rules which are proposed to be brought into place, and the GST forms which need to be filled up by various dealers to implement their obligations under the rule. Subsequent to this, we will highlight in particular certain challenges faced in the implementation of GST. As you are aware, in any new reform, there will always be challenges and difficulties. In some cases, there will be maybe an increased compliance burden on the dealer. In some cases, there may be a lack of clarity. Any new move, there will always be a need as we go along to provide further clarity. So, we will discuss challenges and their clarity. In the concluding session, we will discuss whether GST in its form as it is now can provide the required growth which we require, and will there be other collateral benefits which will be derived from GST. I specifically refer to the collections in direct tax. GST will definitely provide us some growth impetus, but direct tax impetus can also be there through the link between the PAN number and the Aadhaar, which has been introduced by government recently. So, GST by itself will benefit not only the economy but provide subsidy benefits in increased collection of both direct and indirect taxes. So, we were talking about the adverse consequences of GST reporting to two bosses. All of you also know, if you have two bosses, can you survive in the office? No, you must have only one boss. Similarly, in taxation, if I am a taxpayer, I would like to have only one person to, but here because states and center don't trust each other, they are fighting, so there are two bosses. This will affect the implementation of the GST, which is a problem. License Raj doubles and increase in paperwork. The other issue of impediments to GST is they impacts the federal structure of the constitution. Until today, states, they can levy whatever tax they want. GST law they can't. Now they have to listen to what this GST council is doing. So people like Mamata Banerjee and Jayalalitha, when she was alive, she used to say, how can you take away the privilege of my legislature by sitting in Delhi and deciding how I should tax coconut or how I should tax idli rava? You can't tell me in Delhi I should tax like that. So they used to argue that it goes against the federal structure, which is argument still is valid. The other issue is impact on small and medium industries. Informal to formal sector skilling is a problem that there will be danger to the SMEs. Then satisfactory compensation arrangements for this. Central government has offered compensation arrangements for states, but as I said, states and center don't trust each other. So states keep saying, give me guarantee that you will give me the money, I don't trust you. So those issues are still in the air. GST Council functioning, decisions require approval of state cabinets and legislatures. This is what Jayalalitha kept saying. You decide in Delhi what I should tax idli rava or I should tax coconut. But my legislators in my assembly should decide as per the constitution. Who are you to decide? The debate is there, that there is surrender of autonomy of the states. The other issue is political impact of GST. You see, GST is put in so many countries. Australia and Canada, this actually happened. The governments lost power. Increased inflation and government changes. I studied 14 countries after VAT was introduced or GST. I found government change in 5 out of the 14 countries. Inflation increase in 4 out of the 14. I did only 14, a small study. This is actually a cutting I took from First Post, dated April 26th, where Secretary Revenue is saying he sees no inflation impact. This is the Government of India's official stance. I am not saying it's wrong. They say that there is no inflation impact because we have put so many categories of rates that there will be no change in the rate structure. We have seen what are the external factors impacted by GST. We will now come to what is the proposed GST legal and implementation framework. What is the GST Act? What is the GST rules? and what is the framework. See, these are the acts: Central GST Act, State GST Act, UT's GST Act, Integrated GST Act, GST Compensation to States Act. There are 5 acts. We will take one of 3 are similar. 1, 2, and 3 are more or less similar. They are levying tax on goods and services. The integrated GST tax on interstate sales, and compensation to states is the money to be paid to states which the state wanted a guarantee. I'm sure you're aware of that. Center will levy CGST, states will levy SGST, center will levy IGST in the case of interstate supplies. Tax rates, GST Council will recommend tax rates with respect to CGST, SGST and IST. Here is the issue: the tax rate for each CGST will not exceed 20%. Tax rate for IGST will not exceed 40%. What they are saying is, CGST and SGST, the maximum tax rate will be 20 plus 20 is equal to 40. And IGST maximum tax rate will be 40. Taxpayers will be registered. 20 lakhs is the threshold. In Karnataka, 10 lakhs. In the Northeast, 10 lakhs. Up to 20 lakhs, you need not register. Above 20 lakhs, you have to register. Input tax credit is given. Here, of course, the standard clause: I will not give you input tax credit if you buy a Mercedes-Benz motor car and you keep it in your house. You cannot use input tax credit. Personal luxuries cannot be used. These are standard tax clauses. Supply of food, health services, unless they are further used to make a supply. Personal consumption: if I go to a restaurant and I pay tax, the bill I showed, I cannot set off that against some other production. Here is what improved business. They are saying, I will register online, I will give you improved registration in 3 working days. Return will be self-assessment. And here they are saying challans will be generated on GSTN. Every taxpayer should self-assess and file tax returns on a monthly basis by submitting. See, what happens is, the system they have provided, they said, is previously tax dealer should submit only 1 challan. Now he has to submit 3 challans. First challan is, I will submit a challan on, say, the 10th of the month, saying sales made. Every invoice of every dealer with his TIN number I have to put there, every invoice, and upload it. By the 15th, fellows who have sold to me, their numbers will come here for input tax credit. Then I will check whether they are correct or not. I have an opportunity to correct it. And then by the 20th, I use Form 1 and Form 2 to pay my tax in Form 3. This is an IT manager's dream, because everything is auto-populated, everything is automatic. Will it work? The dealer has to access internet 3 times, 10th, 15th, 20th. In between, whenever he uploads invoices, he has to enter. Will internet connectivity be there? Now I am showing you the rate structure. This is the rate structure for goods. You have what is called an exempted rate. No tax is levied at all on goods. For example, exempted rate would be food grain, milk, vegetables, meat. Very correct. Nobody even should tax them. They are exempted. You have what is called a zero rate. Zero rate means I charge 0, I will give you a refund on the taxes already put. For exports, you have 0 rate. You have a low rate of 5%. In this low rate of 5%, government says we will fit in all excise exemption cases and those VAT being charged VAT between 3 and 9%. This is the way government wants to fit. Low standard rate of 12%, where the VAT is between 9 and 15%. Standard rate of 18%, central excise and VAT between 15 and 21, and a higher rate of 28%. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rates. In addition, they will provide additional cesses on luxury cars, aerated drinks, pan masala, tobacco, products for compensation fund. So there will be one cess for this, that's 8. You have a clean environment cess, that's 9. And then national calamity contingency duty. There are 4 rates in this, that's 13, I counted, and then gold to be decided. In the GST system, you will have 16 rates. In the present system, how many rates do you have? VAT 4.5, 0 exempted 4.5, 15, excise is maybe 12.5 plus some. It has about 8, maximum 6 or 7, maybe 8 rates. Is GST a good thing? We will discuss subsequently. You will have what is called a fitment committee of officers to decide which product to fit into which rate. It sounds like that pay revision, you have a fitment committee. Na? You have grades and fellow salaries are pushed into fitment. Similarly, they called it fitment committee where they will fit the goods into the rates. Then that is one thing. The other thing I told you about, to make a Zinda Talisman GST, you require that there should be no distinction between goods and services. They should be treated the same. What is happening here? Goods and services are being treated differently. And there is a different rate for services and a different rate for goods. Services, so far there is only one rate of service tax. That is 15%. You have different levels of abatement. That gives effective rate. Now, they are saying that, I think they have announced recently that they'll have a 2-rate structure for services. So if you add 16 goods, 2 services, you will become 18. Because services are treated differently from goods. In my view, that is the fundamental problem with the GST structure, that you treat services differently from goods. They should be treated the same. Here is what, again, 2-rate structure for services. Basically, I want to say that he is putting services differently. Next. Okay, then exemptions, thresholds and compositions. You will exempt goods. So that's going to be again a huge fight because states exempt some goods. Kerala would like to exempt coconut oil, but Punjab would like to tax coconut oil. Very naturally, so nothing wrong in that. So there is going to be a list of exemptions, what should be exempted or not, but there will be exemption. Threshold 20 lakhs I've already mentioned. There is also what is called composition. Composition means up to a certain turnover, you don't pay GST, you pay 1% or 2%. Those are rules implied are there in the GST Act. You also have what is called advance ruling, where you can in advance ask for ruling on your tax. This is a huge convenience. Input tax credit will be given for others everywhere. Group companies, you will have an input service distributor. See, what is IGST levied for? Why is IGST levied? This is India and these are states. Now, what happens is, within a state of Gujarat, suppose I am selling within the state, then SGST is levied, CGST is levied, right? Suppose I am selling from Gujarat to Telangana, is SGST levied? Is CGST levied? Only IGST levied. IGST is equal to CGST plus SGST. Now here I want to ask you a question. Central government has passed a CGST law. Central government is a national authority. Every law it passes is applied to which part of India? Except Jammu and Kashmir. It is applied all over India. It is true because it's a national authority. Parliament laws are applied all over the country. Is CGST law applied all over the country? It is applied only to intrastate sales. CGST, for interstate sales there is no CGST. CGST is applicable only for sales within the state. So you have the interesting issue. Parliament has passed a tax law which says CGST applicable only in Andhra, only in Tamil Nadu, only in Gujarat. It should have a CGST which is applied all over the country. Why did they do this CGST applicable only within? You are getting my point. It is, in my view, an insult to the parliament that they pass a law saying CGST is applicable only to interstate sales. And then they complicate it by saying IGST should be equal to CGST plus SGST. Now, why is IGST there? Why should IGST be there at all? Any idea? Why should you have an IGST? Any ideas?
Goods are moving from one state to another.
So,
The GST depending on the destination point.
That's correct. So what should happen is, ideally speaking, I will argue, when goods are moved from one state to the other, at the border, you refund the SGST and let there be tax-free goods moved across. So why should you have IGST? See, why you have IGST is very simple. See, when you have a dealer, if you did not have IGST, the dealer will have two kinds of goods. One kind of good where SGST is applied, and one kind of goods where there is no SGST. When I sell from Hyderabad to Maharashtra, SGST cannot be applied. Whereas if I sell from Hyderabad to Adilabad, I can apply SGST. So a dealer has two types of goods: SGST leviable goods and non-SGST leviable goods. So what will the dealer do? In a true tradition of all good dealers, he will show all his stocks here and not here, because he has two rates. This is called tax arbitrage. To prevent this tax arbitrage, they said, no, let me levy a comparable tax called IGST, so that the dealer does not face different goods, different taxes. Taxes should be based on category, not on location. So this is the idea of IGST. So what happens is, IGST should be only SGST. Ideally speaking, a simpler IGST system is, IGST should be only SGST and CGST should be applicable in all states of the country. You get what I mean? CGST, Parliament passes it, says sales or in states all over the country should be applicable, whether within the state or outside the state. And IGST should be only equal to SGST, and that is refunded. That is a simpler IGST system. But they have got a complicated IGST system where CGST is applicable only in CGST in Andhra can be applied only in Andhra. It cannot be applied for interstate sales. This is an issue with IGST which, in my view, unnecessarily complicates the IGST, because you have more accounting to do. CGST component is included in IGST, and then you have rules saying IGST can be adjusted in CGST, SGST. It's a complication. A portion between the center and states, revenue will be. See, once you collect IGST, you have to take out the central part, give it to the center, keep the SGST part, subject it to the states. This is a complication which is unnecessarily there in this law. Why is it there? I am not sure. Now, here is the issue: place of supply of goods. IGST provides rules for place of supply. IGST Act provides clear rules on place of supply. Those rules and place of supply of services, depending on, as you must have seen yesterday, the address of the receiver. Right? Now, suppose, let me give you an example. I am a company in Maharashtra. I wish to advertise, I make some rural product, I wish to advertise in Bihar, and I put my ad in Dainik Bhaskar, which is published, I think, from Delhi. Now, who receives the services? As per IGST law, the service is received by me. Who actually receives the services? The ad is published in Bihar. But as per the present IGST law, the money will be given to, though the consumption of the service is in Bihar. What I mean to say is, there are so many complications of place of supply that the content of the IGST Act is not enough. There should have been a rule, but that rule is missing. Why is that rule missing? It is possible that even they are fighting shy of writing the rule because there are so many complications. That is an issue I have not come into yet, but that is definitely a lacuna which will hamper the GST law. They must bring out place of supply rules. Then cross empowerment, we have already discussed. Now the other issue is anti-profiteering measure. This is a thing which they have put in the law, saying that if we lower the tax, then you must provide the benefit to the consumer. If you do anti-profiteering, if you do profiteering, we will take action against you. That's a clause included in the GST Act. Is this a reasonable provision? I would argue that if you put an anti-provision clause, you are supposed to depend. You see, after all, these are all market-driven things. What is the price of a good depend on? It depends on the supplies, it depends on the demand, it depends on the environment, it depends on lot of other things apart from GST. If the price does not come down, it is not necessarily because of ITC, it could have been because the supplier has closed. But putting an anti-profiteering clause at the time when there is a consumer forum is there, where a consumer has a problem, he can go there. They have unnecessarily put the law creates again distrust between the government and the trader. Government distrusts the trader. They feel the traders are a bunch of chores. So to prevent you, I will put this anti-profiteering clause. Can you implement this clause? I am not sure you can implement it. Because there will be some 70 lakh traders. How can you run behind all of them to see whether he is doing this or not? You are supposed to do through market forces. But that is not happening. See, then last thing about I was talking about is the Compensation Act for loss of revenue. See, center and state, they had big argument. Center said we want GST, state said we don't want GST, we lose money. So what center said was, okay, I will make sure that I will give you what is called compensation. The compensation says, they will say I will add up all your revenue. I will give you a growth rate of 14% on that revenue, on 15-16 revenue, 14% growth rate. And then I will check your actual revenue and GST, any difference, I will give you compensation. This is the compensation law. Now, at the stage of GST, Central GST Act, UT GST Act, IGST Act, GST Compensation Act, even though I have criticized the IGST Act and the CGS and the Compensation Act, believe me, both the acts have been passed, they are law. They are very much law. They have been passed on 12th April 2017. They have not yet been notified. 8 states have passed the SGST bill so far. Telangana, Bihar, Rajasthan, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Uttarakhand, Madhya Pradesh, Haryana. Today's paper, I saw that Assam had also introduced. It is distinctly possible that all states may pass, all the 29 plus 2 union territories may pass the SGST Act. So the GST with all its flaws, it's moving on. GST Council meeting on Srinagar, May 18th and 19th, where they will discuss the rates. So it is a roller coaster which is going on, which pushes forward. This is the act. Now these are the rules. You see, I mentioned rules. No? Here you have registration rules. TBF means to be finalized. Invoice rules, ITC rules, revised return rules, composition rules, revised payment of tax rules, revised refund rules, transition rules, value of supply rules are there. Place of supply rule is not there. Electronic way bill assessment, accounts, appeals, revisions. Now go back, see this rule, return, composition, payment of tax, refund. See this transitional provision rules. What is transitional provision? Between VAT and GST, there is a transition period. In that transition period, how will you handle the tax paid on stock already paid against that previous regime? Now, dealers are worried that in the previous regime, tax was 8% and this regime tax is 5%. Then, if I pay 8% tax now and it is unsold, then next GST regime, I will lose 3%. No, so suppose I have a goods which is taxed at 8% in VAT and in GST it will be taxed at 5%. And I don't know what is going to happen, what are the transition rules. So what as a dealer, what will I do? What I'll do as a dealer is what you have been reading in the newspapers over the last 1 week about medical shops. I don't know you have been reading. Medicines dealers. Medicines are in short supply because dealers are not buying fresh stock because they are afraid that they will get caught with tax paid goods which they will lose. How do you handle such a problem? You handle such a problem by putting transition rules where you say, boss, even if you have paid 8% in the previous tax, if you prove to me that the goods you bought were in the previous regime, I will give you refund for the full 8%. That is what transition rule is meant to be. If you put that transition rule, there will be no impediment in business in the market because everybody will agree that he will know my tax is protected, so I have no problem, let me continue buying and selling. What has happened? They have not yet announced the transition rules. They have announced rules, in my view, are quite unnecessary. One of the most important rules you should do is finalize the transition rules. How much tax you will refund from the VAT regime to the GST regime. That only will keep the market happy. Why have they not done it? I don't know. But the fact remains is, because it is not done today in Hyderabad, some medical medicines are in short supply because dealers are not buying, because they are afraid that they will lose. It's still a month ahead, but say, no, who knows, if I keep it lying unstocked, I will lose tax. These are issues of tax where somebody must move forward and push the rules further. So there are 14 different rules, again my old point, but place of supply rules is not there, and that in my view is a problem for people like BSNL. Then look at the forms. There are 26 registration forms, there are 28 return filing forms, there are 7 challan forms, there are 10 refund forms, there are 2 invoice forms. 54, 61, 73, 75 forms. If I am a small middle class dealer doing a turnover of say some 50 lakhs sitting in say Nizamabad, I have to read 50 forms to decide which form I should have. Is this a good idea? So you see, this is the counter side. What is happening is, people who has designed these forms? The tax authorities. And the tax authorities have devised it to save their revenue, not look at the convenience of the taxpayer. That has created this huge compliance burden. See, the SPG, Special Protection Group, protects the Prime Minister. Their job is only one, to protect the life of the Prime Minister. So ideally, what would they like to tell the Prime Minister? I will build a bunker, a hole in the ground, you sit here only and I will protect your life. But the Prime Minister can't do his job. Similarly, in GST, they have designed the system where they can collect maximum money from dealers, but in the process, the dealer compliance has become very high. That is you are in your effort to see that this is not stolen, that is not stolen, this is not stolen, you have made so many forms and so many rules that the poor dealer, can he comply? Let us see. But again, what the only benefit is, again, this Ernst and Young fellows and all the chartered accountants and all the sales tax practitioners, all these fellows will benefit. And then you look at the forms. GSTR form 1, 15 pages. GSTR 2, 13. Think again of some fellow, as I said, sitting in Mehboob Nagar or sitting in Adoni. Here GSTR 1 is 15 pages. GSTR 2 is 13 pages, GSTR 3 11 pages, 4 is 12 pages. Every sort of contingency is put in that form. This fellow will be confused out of his mind. But that is GSTR. Then this is GSTR 1. These I have just quoted from the rules, just to give you a flavor of how difficult it is to understand. I try to read it, I find difficulty in understanding it. See, this is the rules, GSTR 1. Details of outward supplies on goods and services, both furnished in form, shall include inter alia, invoice-wise details of all interstate supplies, intrastate supplies made to registered persons, interstate supplies are involved more than to unregistered persons, consolidated all these fellows. This is one rule. We are all reasonably educated. It is not for sure that some fellow in Adoni will understand this. And why should he understand it? It is not his business. You write in Telugu and write in simple language, he can understand. But you are providing in English in a website, and how will he understand this? That is one of the challenges of GST. Again, we are same point I mentioned, composition. Then here is GS. Now here is what is called the Jadu ki Pudiya. What the government says, the Jadu ka Pudiya is GSTN, Goods and Services Tax Network. I'll just show you 2 diagrams. Next, there are 70-80 lakh taxpayers, 300 crores of invoice data, 12,000 tax officials, You need a very strong IT network. Here is what GST and IT says. It says GSTN will do what is called front end. Front end means registration, returns and payments. It will handle for everybody. Registration by GSTN, return filing and payments. Everything else, approval of registration, assessment, refunds, audit, adjudication, internal workflows, this will be done in the state backend. And then you will have a front end with GSTN which does the returns. This back end and front end are supposed to mix. And but thing is, payment is with GSTN. All the money is with these guys. All the work is on that side. This is basically a portal description how they will move ahead. Here you have a GSTN common portal. Now there are two ways it's operating. You have the application portal program interface. Some states are saying we will design our own. Other people are saying no, you design for us. But basically you have a program in the back end where you pay directly to GSTN in Delhi. The system arranges so that your share of the money will come automatically to you in whatever state you are located in. Here is what I want you to look at. GSTN registration number. This is actually one of the most significant reforms which has been put in the GSTN network, which we discussed. Every fellow will have a registration number. State code 1 and 2 is the state code. 3 to 12 will be PAN. 13 and 14. 13 is entity code, 14 is blank, 15 is check digit. What is unique about this? For the first time in India, trader is being told, if you don't have PAN, don't do business. Forget composition trader and forget the threshold. If you are above 20 lakhs, the trader is being told, the industrialist is being told, the advertising agency man is being told, you don't have PAN, don't come to me.
So this way they are connecting to direct taxation.
That is the answer. You have anticipated my answer. So what are they doing? They are forcing everybody to get a PAN, whether you like it or not. Once you have a PAN, what is the next step which you saw in the papers about a month ago? Exactly. Separately, there is a bill which has been passed saying every PAN must be linked to an Aadhaar card. So now what has happened here? You have a link between GST, between PAN, to the income tax PAN, to the Aadhaar. So what is going to happen on the GST, and of course all these chota mota companies which are there to do 1 or 2 transactions, paid tax, they disappear, they will disappear. But more important, what will happen? What happens is, for the first time, being a former taxman, I can confidently say there are something called tax evasion prone sectors. Textiles, plywood, edible oil, steel industry, these are all evasion prone. You make these fellows give a PAN and you make him give an Aadhaar link to the PAN. What is going to happen? As she says, first of all, your income tax is going to rise. GST may rise or may not rise, is not the issue now. The moment I have caught that fellow and put an Aadhaar, and then I see what will happen is I will see his turnover in this GSTR 1. If he shows a turnover of 50 lakhs, I will argue that any textile trader makes a percentage of 10%. You should have shown 5 lakhs there. They will go to the income tax return and say, have you got 5 lakhs? This is the issue with GST today. Even though the GST is a suboptimal, substandard GST, make no mistake, people in Government of India are smart people. They are sharp people and they are very professional people. I am speaking not speaking of CBDT bureaucracy, I am speaking of the political leadership, which is as important. In my view, what they are saying is, my interpretation is, we are willing to tolerate a substandard GST, but this will give me a line into Squeezing, see that miserably, I am not saying the argument is wrong. See, only 3% of our people pay income tax. It's a shame, we should get it up to 7 to 8%. Through this method of PAN, this GST and etc., I suspect that within the next 3-4 years, they will raise the percentage of taxpayers from 3% to 5 or 6%. And direct taxes will increase from 55% to 75% maybe. Is it a good thing? Yes. So, but is GST a good thing? That remains doubtful. But will the nation benefit? Yes. Will there be increased revenue? Yes. On the whole, despite the challenges outlined by me, I find that GST will be extremely good for the economy because it is a move for change which I had identified in my first lecture. India is a nation in a hurry, it needs to move fast. GST is one way it can move fast. Let us hope with GST being implemented this year, the Indian economy growth gets into accelerated mode. If you wish to consult further, you can look up my papers in the Economic and Political Weekly on GST. You can also look at the e-text being provided in this paper. This closes the second part of the GST session I have taken. I hope you have enjoyed the session, understood the need for the GST, and join me in hoping that GST will bring India to a greater path.